gonna get, I'll take the sheet.
I'm meeting with Scanlon today.
You want?
I'm meeting with Dave Scanlon today.
Okay.
That was as soon as I could get them.
All right. Thank you. Senator Ennis, come on up. We'll call the Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee to order, and we'll start with our first bill, and the prime sponsor is here to introduce himself in the bill.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. It's a pleasure to be here with you. For the record, I'm Dan Innes, representing District 7. I live in the beautiful town of Bradford, New Hampshire. And this bill is rather interesting, and it grew out of a discussion I had with the superintendent in a school district. And as we were discussing things, we were talking about the budget, how to keep costs down, particularly as enrollment's falling. And he pointed out that in all 4 of the elementary schools in the district, the average class size is about 8 to 10 students. And then he went on to point out that 2 of the elementary schools need substantial renovations. Between the 2 of them, $60 to $80 million. This is a rural district, decent tax base. And I said, well, could you close 2 of them and consolidate in the 2 that don't need major renovations and not cause any problems for the district? He said, I absolutely could. It would be easy to do. We could get it done, not a problem. No one would know, right? Wouldn't have to get rid of any staff necessarily. We'd do it through attrition. It would work beautifully. Well, why don't you do that? Well, we can't, because our charter says that the town in which the school resides is the only town that votes on closing that school. So let's imagine it's Sutton, New Hampshire, and there are 4 elementary schools. There happen to be in the Kearsarge district: New London, Sutton, Bradford, and Warner. Sutton and Warner both need major repairs. I said, well, we'll close them. Well, we can't. Warner would have to vote on closing the elementary school in Warner. Sutton would have to vote on closing the elementary school in Sutton. The other communities don't have a say. So essentially, you would have 2 communities saying, we want to keep our elementary schools, and every community does. I understand that. And by the way, you're all going to see a major increase in your property taxes because we have to upgrade those buildings for 50 students, right? It just doesn't make sense economically. So what this bill does is says, okay, you want to close a school, it's a vote by every town in the district, not just the one in which the school resides. So it's a nice, simple thing. It gives everybody a voice in their own property tax and doesn't enable the current situation to continue, which to me feels really unfair. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the senators?
Yes.
Senator.
Thank you, Senator, for being here, and I appreciate the backstory. You chose the number 20 voters. Could you talk about why?
I'm not sure I can. Let me get to that language real quick, and I'm sure I can. Let's see. Upon written petition to the school board by 20 or more legal voters.
6, yes.
It seemed a reasonable number. In drafting, that's what was suggested to us. So that's what we went with. I'm amenable to a larger number, smaller number, whatever, makes the most sense. Certainly willing to amend this if you have a suggestion that might be better.
Follow up, if I may, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I just, I understand completely the want for our local entities to have sort of authority over consolidating. Obviously, we all agree on efficiency of tax dollars. I also just worry a little bit that a number so low could sort of be used to try to close schools that are still very much being used. And so do you have any thoughts on sort of, maybe we could have some safeguards in here to make sure this is used for the intended purpose?
I mean, I'm thinking to a warrant article in Bradford, right? You need 25 signatures. Now,
Yeah.
there are only 1,600 people in Bradford, so that number probably makes a lot of sense. I think the only issue that I would see here is that there are differing sizes to the communities in different districts. In some cases, as in the case of Bradford, 25 is sufficient. In another community, maybe Franklin, that wouldn't be a sufficient number, perhaps. So I'm open to scaling that or to a higher number. I don't think that would be unreasonable. Okay. What that number is, I don't know, and I'm open to suggestion.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Additional questions from any senators? Senator Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, RSA 19435 requires 20 voters, and it's a superior court
There
That-
it is then. Thank you.
that, although this bill repeals that.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
would you
must,
be comfortable with adding to the 20?
of course. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
definitely. I mean, it seems logical to me. You ought to be able to get more than 20 for something this big, right? So yeah, I would be open to that, a reasonable number. And the hard part for us will be coming up with that number. But yes.
All right.
Okay.
Seeing no other questions, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very
And
much.
The only other person that signed up does not wish to speak, and they are opposed. And online, there is, this is 588, right? There is 2 in support and 55 opposed. So with that, we will close the public hearing, and it'll be a little bit of time before we start the next one. So.
Oh, please.
All right.
So this morning's adventure was my car battery.
Send along, you may want to turn the mic off. Oh, we do have the prime sponsor. All right. And we'll call the Senate Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee out of recess, and we're ready for our next bill, and we'll have the prime sponsor who's here introduce herself and the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is, for the record, Senator Rebecca Perkins Quokka, serving Portsmouth and the surrounding towns, and I'm here to introduce SB 587, which is helping create criteria for redistricting. So, obviously, there's conversation going on around redistricting that's happening on sort of a national level that's highly partisan. This bill is just here in a different spirit. As a member of the redistricting committee 4 or 5 years ago now, with my chairman, we had a couple just procedural pieces that I think we could do better setting out in statute and just helping create the most transparent and improved process that we can. And so I'm offering this bill in the spirit of making sure that as we look ahead to a time when redistricting will become a more charged event, that we sort of now in a quiet time think about the ability to make improvements to that process. And so essentially what this bill does is lay out a process for public participation and just timing of when we would make maps available to make that feedback helpful. And so I looked across the country at other states. Colorado had a series of hearings that they held and sort of timing of maps laid out. And having sat through our redistricting hearings with you, I know that the timing of maps came up a lot and took up a lot of testimony, frankly. And so I think it would help us all if we were able to sort of get one layer deeper in our public feedback. And so another piece I know is sort of like how comments were received. And so again, this is all offered as sort of a first draft, but a thoughtful first draft based on what other states have done. And just again, sort of offered in the spirit of hoping to improve our process by laying out sort of where comments will be received, how they'll be posted, and just kind of addressing some of the areas where, when we look back on our redistricting process last time, we, in my opinion, could just use some clarification. And so I'm offering them to try to help with that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from senators? I'll ask one just because we got plenty of time.
Sure.
What is the most important criteria to use when you're redistricting?
One person, one vote.
So population.
Yes.
So keeping the difference between the people who are over the median and below the median as small as possible.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
How do you make the cook milk? So the question is, isn't there a standard deviation that was put in by a Supreme Court decision? I think it's plus or minus 5%, right? As it relates to demographics, and didn't all of our maps meet that criteria?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the statistics on our maps, I'm sure we could go into a long discussion that we probably would need other facts for, but I remember that as we sat through the hearings and as we kind of went around the state, which was great. I mean, I think it was good that we went to different locations to sort of receive that feedback that the maps weren't available in that time prior to when we were actually in legislative session. And so, again, this is a process bill to sort of make sure that as we make those maps, yes, there are criteria that guide us. But if by chance we are not following those in ways that, local folks can contribute to, or, there could be other input that can help us make the fairest maps that we can, that we are able to incorporate that meaningfully.
Okay.
I would like to go into executive session to continue this
Okay.
since it's such a small, we don't have anyone else signed up. The people that signed up online is 54 in support, 2 and opposed, and I will take a motion to go into executive
Can you
session.
close the public hearing on the bill first?
Close the public hearing.
I make a motion, we go into executive session.
We have a motion and second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. On this particular bill, when we run around the state, that was the listening session to figure out what the people wanted us to do. So are we really proposing we go around the state twice so that they can see what maps we proposed, or?
So
Because I don't know how I get the maps to them. If I'm listening to them on how I should build the maps, I don't know how I show them the maps when I'm still listening.
yeah, understood. I'm not proposing we go around the state twice, but if we are going to propose maps, then there should be hearings outside of the state house and prior to a vote, where people can give feedback on those. And I think when it comes to a process as important as redistricting, yes, it's important to listen prior to the maps, but it's also really important for people to be able to give that feedback afterwards. And the only, having gone through it last time, the only place and way they were able to do that was to come into the state house after the publishing of the maps. And so I just think we serve the process better. Again, if we're going to do the work to go out to folks in the different districts to make sure we're doing that with a proposed draft in hand.
Well, certainly when we drafted the executive council map, okay, the testimony from the people that talked about the district that went all the way from the western side of the state to the eastern side of the state and only had this small, certainly influenced the construction of that map. And so that's why, I don't mind going around the state a second time, but with the time period that we were restricted to. I also wanted to comment on your question about the plus or minus 5. It actually isn't plus or minus 5. It's 10% difference between the high and the low. So if you have a whole bunch of areas that are just slightly under, and you have one that's quite a bit above, then you can still get that 10% in between. And for those who don't know, that there was over in the Keene area, I'm not sure exactly where, there was a question of whether the house could have met that criteria. And also that criteria is also down on the local level. And that if you look to Nashua, that they're really is no reason why Nashua's numbers could not have been very much closer when they split up their wards. But if they did that, then it would have caused a big shift in what we could do with the Senate districts in Nashua. And therefore, if they had split them up evenly, we would have actually had to take both Nashua districts, and there wouldn't be one district that was just Nashua. It would have had to include, and in that part of the state, those towns are so big that there is very little that you can do about moving them around and still meeting the criteria, because communities that are large and are still towns can't be broken up when you're doing House, Senate, or other districts. And so just wanted to go through some of that to remind you of, all of the things that we tried to do. And believe me, when I put my maps together, I tried starting in other parts of the state, and you could not do it unless you started with Nashua and that surrounding area first. there was just too many other criteria that came in because there was such a limited number of ways you could do it.
And Chairman, just as an example, I mean, I think that's a good conversation to have in these situations, right? So if you know, you've done some work on that, a map is out there, someone's able to say, hey, you know, why did you break Nashua up this way? You know, you're sort of able to respond to that. And, you know, just as sort of a practical example of how this could work, I think we held 5 or 6 public hearings around the state, you know, and so this requires
We held 10. We held
10.
one in every county. And
Okay.
I was there for everyone.
I think my daughter was born shortly before, but anyway,
Yeah, she was there. Your daughter was there for at least one, I know.
yes.
Maybe two.
So this, you know, for example, just has 3 public hearings after the plan. So it's not, I'm not trying to put impractical ring fences around this, and would love to discuss the details of it. But again, it just seemed like we ended up with a lot of comments that it would have been helpful to have
Yeah.
the maps available, and how the feedback was collected was another big subject. And so we're going to do it and put the work into it, just trying to help get it right.
All right. Senator?
So again, it kind of seems like a chicken and egg problem, right? To a certain extent, is that I think when you start these public comment sessions, you have the default map of what the current map is, and then you're looking to what changes in population occurred and how you have to adjust. And so I don't know how you present a map to somebody that in a way before you've taken their testimony. And then once you've taken their testimony, I'll be honest with you, you're going to do 10 meetings across the state. Our timelines are pretty tight, right? And in those processes. So I think I think it would be a struggle to then go back to those 10, listen to say that we actually listened to you before we did the map, and then we did the map, and then we came back and presented the map and listened to you again. And then if we change the map based on testimony again, does that mean we have to go back again to the 10 towns and say, oh, we changed the map that we gave you, and here's what it looks like? I just don't know how we work that, and how that would be. You know, you can't give a map first, because that means basically you're ignoring the testimony, and you give the map, if you don't have it, and you're saying we have to go back after we develop a map, and then public testimony on that results in another change. When do we get to the end?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to discuss that more, but you know, if we have 5 or 6 hearings before the maps come out, and then we have, you know, 3 or 4 more hearings, I hear the chicken and egg problem, but I think this is attempting to just achieve a little more balance than what we had last time.
The reason that we chose 10 is because we held one in each one of the counties. And when you look at between Carroll County and Coos County, there are unique things up there that unless you get the testimony from those individuals, that, you know, there are some roads that you can't get there from here, you know, and to get from one town in the county to another town in the county, that you actually have to leave the county significantly to be able to go do it. So cutting the number that you do first down, I'm not really in favor of. I don't know that it's in statute anywhere that we have to hold those in there, all the counties, but that's certainly tradition as far as I know.
I hear you.
So. All right. Anybody else want to comment on that before we come out of the executive session? Seeing none, do I have a motion? I have a motion to come out of executive session. I'll second. Okay, Senator Long seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're in the regular session.
Are you good on timing to run this hearing?
I should be fine.
Okay, okay. Okay.
But if I leave, I'll manage it.
Okay.
As soon as I get a text, I may have to run. All right. It being the appointed hour of 9:45, we'll open up the public hearing on Senate Bill 405 and introduce Senator Gray, the prime sponsor of the amendment. Of the bill, sorry.
All right. My name is James Gray. I'm a senator representing Senate District 6, which starts in Rochester and Stratford, goes up Route 11 to Alton and Gillington. We created a problem the last time that we revised the statute, and whereas for campaign contributions, it used to be $50 didn't have to be reported in a campaign cycle, and that cycle was primary for the primary cycle and then the general election cycle, which gave an individual $150 that they could campaign or could donate to a campaign. And so when we changed it, it was $50 in a 2-year period. Well, I don't know about you, but there are people out there who would like to donate to campaigns, and these small dollar donors don't necessarily want to be identified. Okay, that transparency. You're not going to make a big turnaround in a campaign with $50. You're not going to make a big turnaround in a campaign for $200. And you're not going to make a big turnaround in especially a Senate election or an executive council election, governor's election at $2,000. Okay. So this recognizes that, yeah, some people want to donate. The small dollar donors, they want to give money. But, with the limits the way they are right now, $50 in the cycle, etc., as the bill says, that's holding them back. I know that I attend a lot of county meetings. I represent towns in both Stratford County and Belknap County. And Stratford County loves to pass a hat, okay? They love to have donors, at the county Republican meeting. But they say, oh, gee, with the laws the way it is now, when you put your money in, you also need to tell us what your name is and how much, because the aggregate of the amount that you're going to give may exceed that $50, and therefore we have to report your name. Does this solve that completely? Probably not. But, think about it. You've got 24 months. If I had 24 Republican meetings in Stratford County and I gave $2 at each one of those, I'd be right up against that limit. Okay. I get $3, I've exceeded it. Okay. So I did get at least one email before this bill that says, oh, we ought to be reducing it, not, expanding it. Hey, I've been there. I've lived it. I've had articles written against, us senators that say, well, gee, you take too much money from this or that or the other thing. I believe that this is reasonable, and I urge you to pass it.
Questions from the committee? So certainly, from what I take on from this, and tell me if I'm correct, is that one of the biggest issues is if you get a $20 donation, a $20 donation, and a $20 donation in the 3 periods, primary, general, and yet you have you didn't take the name on the first person, and now you're in the second and third person, so you could potentially accidentally violate this $50 law just by taking a $20 donation in each of the cycles?
Yep.
Thank you.
One question. I don't particularly have a practical problem with this. I tend to agree with you that these amounts are reasonable. 1,000 is a little higher than we see in other states. I think when I was looking around, 300 was kind of the highest. Did you pick 1,000 for a particular reason, or?
Well, it was $200 for each of the cycles, which gets you to 6. And so that's, I rounded it up to the nearest $00. I mean, when I'm looking at donations in that last week or so before the primary, and when I'm looking at donations before the general election that I have to report
Yep.
separately on and things,
Yep.
I'm really trying to get to, but my campaigns are one of the smallest amount of money raised and spent on campaigning. Okay. And even my campaigns, I think I took in, I don't know, I probably spent on campaign things, I probably spent around $30,000 last time, took in 50,000, donated the rest to either local Republican things or to the Republican Party or to the Senate PAC, the Senate Republican PAC. And $1,000 is not going to influence a campaign, especially for the Senate, in any significant ways. I mean, you're not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to trade in my beliefs," because you gave me $1,000. I mean, it's really, some campaigns, you can each think about what you raised and spent on your campaigns, but how much of the money that you brought in is $1,000? What percentage? Okay. I know that in the southern part of the state, there are people who, if it was 1 or 2% of what they brought in, that's how I picked $1,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Being none, thank you, Senator Gray. Being that's the only person signed up, is there anybody else who wishes to speak on Senate Bill 405? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 405 and turn the gavel over to Senator Gray. But you want to go into executive?
Yeah, but I want to read how many people signed up for or against first. All right. I think I've got the sheet here somewhere. Online, there were 54 in support, 2 opposed. And with that, I will take a motion to go into the executive session.
So moved. Second.
Let's see if I can get it there without throwing it on the floor. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. All right. What do you guys want to work on?
The one you just heard.
All right.
405 sounds like it didn't have a whole lot of opposition here. The speakers,
All right.
no one spoken opposition.
The chair will move on to pass.
Second.
Any discussion?
I tend to agree with the prime sponsor statements that, fortunately or unfortunately, in today's elections, these amounts of money are really just a small portion of what we collect. So I think it's reasonable.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have
Move
it.
consent.
We have a motion for consent by Senator Lang and Senator Rutherford, second. Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and I will take that one out since it's my bill. Oop. Did all that in the wrong sheet. Change that.
Would you like to take up your 435 amendment?
Sure. Okay.
Chairman, for discussion, I'll move on to pass on Senate Bill 435.
We have an ought to pass motion on 435.
Second.
Second. So that was PK and Lang. Well, see, my shorthand, you know.
Yeah, hey, most people call me RPK, so you're right on target.
All right. I would like to introduce Amendment 2026-0448S and move that thought to pass.
Second.
And that's Ray and Lang. As we've talked before, I don't believe removing hardship or the concept of the hardship is the right way to go. But redefining it, as it is here, unreasonable restriction, okay, gives more leeway to the planning board, in my opinion, although the concepts that we put into the criteria below are not all that different. This was discussed with NHMA.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, get around.
Yep. And any further discussion?
I think what you've done is a reasonable step forward on this. Having served on the planning board and watched a lot of local land use boards sort of struggle with how to work on variances, especially, I think ZBAs misapply them often. There is case law that supports the hardships criteria, and there's always been sort of questions about use variance versus area variance. And I think in the committee, we talked a lot about area variance, but I think here, like, the balance we're trying to strike is that in an area that's been zoned, application of that zoning to this particular parcel really doesn't make sense. And so I think what you've redrafted here is a good way to advance the discussion. And I'm sure we will continue to tweak this as the years of the legislature go on.
Further discussion? Okay, we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And now we're voting on the bill as amended. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And
Move consent.
we have a motion for consent.
Second.
And all those in favor of consent say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, and
I
think
can
I'm-
take it out, or you want
Okay,
to?
you
Okay.
can take it out.
Chairman, as I mentioned to you privately on SB 437, you guys had graciously given me a little bit of time. I am meeting with the Secretary of State today, so I should have an update when we meet next.
All right, well. Anything else you guys want to work on today? Then we'll give you back some time. All right, next week, we don't have any bills scheduled. We've got a couple that will come in from the House. So be prepared on these other ones to actually exec them.
Okay.
We want to try to get to that point.
It's not positive yet, but I think we're gonna get 2 Senate lay bills.
So we'll take up those, and then we will also discuss with the Senate leadership as to whether or not we want to start in on any of the House bills. But that will probably be the week after, and we'll do if we get the 2 bills, we'll try to do those, and then we'll try to exec the ones that we've got, and just let me know if there's a problem with one of them, then you need more time, because we do have time. So unless you guys have something, we'll take a motion to come out of the executive session.
Second.
We have a motion second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Our business today being complete, we are adjourned.